All right, welcome into another LNP Lancaster Online Sports Roundtable. I'm John Walk with colleagues Mike Gross and Jeff Reinhardt. We thought we'd do a second show this week. In light of it being a Friday, in light of many different things going on happening this week with new parameters set forth for what practices and games are going to look like across various sports, plus a lot of stuff happening with other schools. I kind of wanted to lead off with LL League High School Golf. They had their first regular season match on Thursday. Michael was out there. It's basically the first regular season event since things got shut down back in March due to the pandemic. Mike, what did you see from that?
First of all, I heard a lot of people said this was the first event in Pennsylvania since the pandemic. I couldn't confirm that, so I didn't write it. But that was sort of interesting, I thought. But it's funny because Section 2 of the Lancaster-Lebanon League right now in golf is not really a powerhouse. And you had a lot of kids who, to say the least, are not used to media attention. And there was a couple TV stations there, and there were several reporters and photographers kind of buzzing around. So it was kind of interesting. The kids were pretty good about, wearing their masks and the social distancing in the appropriate spots. And there's some things about the rules of golf and the etiquette of golf that have changed as a result of the pandemic. But all of this stuff is people that have been playing golf for the last 4 months. It's not new to them. So it was a pretty normal. There was a couple of moments after it was over when guys are kind of gathering together around the scorer's table where the coach had to come in and say, "Hey guys, social distance, put your mask on." There was a little bit of that, but other than that, there was very little that you would even notice about pandemic accommodations. It was Iron Valley's a hard golf course to begin with. It was brutally windy, so the kids had horror stories. I had this one kid was telling me that 2 days ago he shot 80 in Tanglewood, and and that day he shot 102, and he had a 9 and an 11 and a 12, and he was but he was doing it good naturedly. At first I wasn't going to put it in the story, and then I thought, well, this kid's kind of telling it on himself, so I threw it in there. But it was fun, and it was a good day, and it was. Golf is by far the least impacted sport by, these COVID-19 accommodations. So it was pretty much business as normal. And maybe the outstanding thing was just how hard a day it was because of the course and the wind and all that.
Here's a question. Did they take the flag stick out, or does it remain in? And is there any rules about like gimmies or anything? How's that work?
Oh, there's no gimmies. There's no gimmies. And another thing they do is they don't want to have the rakes. They don't want to have people use the rakes in the bunker.
Huh.
So, because of the constant touching. So they're allowing you to lift clean in place in the bunker if you hit it in the bunker. And that's not unique. Again, that's not unique to high school. That's the Lanco stuff was that way, and all competitive golf, amateur golf is that way. They discourage handshakes, and that kind of stuff. But those are the changes that actually affect the game on the course. Yeah.
All right. So transitioning from there onto the Wilson School Board later in Thursday night, voted to, I guess, basically on the fate of fall sports. What happened there, Jeff?
Interesting situation at Wilson. And obviously they're LL League football members. So this was a lot of eyeballs on this vote last night. I guess the school board had voted 5-4 earlier this month to go along with the PIAA. Okay, we want to play. So the Wilson Extracurricular Committee came back and said, whoa, throw on the brakes. It was only a 5-4 vote. This is a big deal. These are kids. This is COVID. We need to look at this more, break it down, have a school board meeting, get the thoughts of everybody. So in those couple of weeks there, a lot of outpouring, let us play, the kids, and making videos and taking pictures. And so they had the school board meeting to vote Thursday night. A couple tense moments. I thought everybody on the school board got, discussions. Everybody talked. it ended up being an 8-1 vote, but everybody pretty much said, sure, there's some issues here. We don't have all the answers. Could be some issues moving forward. We don't know. But from the outpouring from the community and from the kids was, hey, let us play. Drew Kaufman, the athletic director, stood up and said, hey, we have a great health and safety plan here. We're proud of it. We've been making it work all summer. Please let our kids play. So came through in the vote 8-1, and it was the extracurricular activity committee chair who voted no, and she made some great points. But at the end of the day, it was an 8-1 vote. So they will play sports at Wilson. Bulldogs will play LL Section 1. They'll start HEDAC on Monday. They open up September 18th against rival Governor Mifflin. So there will be football. So a couple of tense weeks and moments around Wilson. Reading had already canceled. That's the other big school district there in Berks County. So some tense moments around Wilson. End of the day, they're going to play. Nice job, school board, to listen to the kids, listen to the parents. Bulldogs, LO football, Section 1. So
yeah, and as all this stuff is starting to come back, we keep hearing the next shoe is, what about spectators? And also, what about as school boards, other school boards are still considering it, the liability issue. And Mike kind of wanted to chat a little bit on those two prongs on that end.
Well, yeah, I wonder if I wonder if the 5-4 going to 8-1 at Wilson. Yeah. I wonder if maybe some clarity on the liability issue may have had something to do with that. I would have been really surprised if Wilson, a sort of suburban and very well financed, very high priority football school would not have played sports. But it's looking more and more like this liability thing. I mean, we've had a week or so now for a whole bunch of lawyers. I mean, every school district has a solicitor that's a lawyer. Look at this, and it's becoming increasingly clear from what I'm reading and hearing that unless you can prove negligence on the part of the school district, you're going to have a real hard time litigating if your kid gets sick playing sports. I mean, that's going to be that's I think is less of a is seen as less of a hurdle than it was seen even a week ago. As you know, people have had their lawyers a chance to really look at this thing.
Mm-hmm. And as far as the spectators go, it was interesting earlier this week. Hempfield Athletic Director Steve Polonis had sent me an email with a link to an audio file of Governor Tom Wolf being on KDKA radio out in Pittsburgh. Asked, "Hey, would you think about giving a waiver as far as the 50 spectators indoors, 250 people outdoors?" And we already know, like, there's no spectators allowed at all. That 50 indoors, 250 people outdoors number, that's like for the people in the stadium, in the gym, which we're going to get to a little bit.
I don't think we know that. Volleyball. I don't think we know that.
Oh, really? Okay. So
yeah, I'm not sure we know that. I'm not sure.
Anyway, Governor Wolf starts off, says he has an open mind, but then later on essentially says he's not sure of a safe way to do that as far as 250 people beyond that outdoors and 50 indoors. Mike, have you gotten any clarity on that? I know since the last time that we talked last week, Dr. Lombardi said he was going to look into speaking to the governor's office about that.
Well, I recorded the interview that you're referring to. I'm looking at the transcript of it here, and Wolf has this. This is my read of the governor. He has two things going on. One, he really doesn't think this is a good idea to play sports. He really thinks it's a bad idea, and I don't think it's crazy for him to think that. And the other thing is, he wants to make it clear, and I think he did in this interview. I'm looking at this transcript that. What he's saying is a recommendation. It's not my call. It's your call. Local school districts. It's your call. And he's correct about that. So I'm not even sure that they have to negotiate with him about this. I think they can do what they choose to do. But the last we heard about this, and I called some PIAA folks today and they have not heard back from them. The last we heard about this was that the PIAA thinks they're forbidden. Spectators are forbidden. That's what they think. I'm not sure that's right. and I think there's room for some wiggle room here. It's going to have to get decided soon, obviously, but I think this is a little bit like the liability thing in that I think there's been a little bit of movement towards what the athletes and their families want to happen.
Yeah, Lombardi told us last week, and it's 25 for indoor. That's it, 25 people in a gym. Lombardi told us last week two things. Number one, he would like 2 immediate family members for each kid to be able to be at events for safety purposes. As mentioned last week, somebody snaps an ankle during a soccer match, they would like the parents to be there. And Lombardi is also going to request 25% capacity in stadiums and inside in bleachers. He thinks that would be enough space to socially distance, to have a 25% of your capacity to have people in. And Lombardi also told us last week that they are in touch with the governor's office right now, trying to get anything on fans in the stands, how many, pretty please. Mm-hmm. And we do it. Like Mike said, this has got to happen here pretty quick because we're going to get started soon.
So after I got that email from Steve Polonis, I forwarded it to Lindsay Kensinger, who is the PR person for the governor's office, just asking for a clarification. And looking at the response from Lindsay now, clearly states that the current mitigation orders on gathering limitations state that indoor events and gatherings of more than 25 persons are prohibited, and then outdoor events and gatherings of more than 250 persons are prohibited. So it clearly states prohibited, but I don't. When it comes to sports, it sounds like that's still.
But why does it go without saying that does not include potentially spectators?
Right, and that's the frustrating part, is we haven't been able to get an answer. And as we've learned over the last 2 weeks, it kind of seems like Wolf doesn't even want to bother talking to the PIAA and says, "Hey, do as you please." But then with the spectator rules, it's strictly prohibited.
Yeah, well, he needs to straighten that out, because it's either do as you please, which I think that's ultimately what it is do as you please, or it's a rule. It's a requirement. Another thing, in the last 24 hours, we've heard there are not going to be fans at Philadelphia Eagle games, and there are not going to be fans at Pittsburgh Steelers games, and that's because of an edict from the state of Pennsylvania. Now, that's a little bit different than high schools, because if they can only have 200 people in the stands, they don't want to bother doing it. That's a different thing, but I don't think that's.
Plus, those fans are coming from like all across the state.
Yeah, that's a different thing.
That's hundreds of fans congregating at ticket places, at concessions, at bathrooms, a lot of chances of virus spreading and all that stuff. Okay, kind of sticking with the spectator limit or capacity limit as far as indoors goes. Girls volleyball, we learned this week, now has kind of parameters in place on how they're going to proceed with these guidelines and actually hold a match.
Yeah, kudos to Roger Zerwinski, Kokalico AD and volleyball chair. He's fantastic with this. He shared the LL League's recommendations for volleyball matches down to the minute details, pre-match, match, post-match, some highlights. Obviously, no handshakes. Warm-ups would just be one team in the gym at a time for a 10-minute warm-up period. The captain's meeting would just be one ref, one captain, one coach. Quickly get it over. No other teams in the gym at the same time. The only people physically in the gym would be the kids on the court, the coaches, 3 people working the scorer's table, 1 game manager, and 1 athletic trainer. That's it. And again, these are recommendations. 3 balls would be in play instead of 2. That way they could sanitize the volleyballs in between points. And this one, I've gotten a lot of comments on this one this week, but where are you going to put the substitutes? Where are they going to be? Because they can't really be on the bench, and the chairs will be 6 feet apart. The substitute recommendation, believe it or not, is out in the hallway. And the kids will be housed out in the hallway, socially distanced. Mm-hmm. And when you're going to sub in, they're going to summon, the kid in from out in the hallway, which sounds ridiculous, but that's how they're going to have to do it to socially distance these kids. So you could be, bringing in, Laurie, come on in, and she could be running into the gym from out in the hallway, not knowing the score or the situation or what's going on. But that's how they're going to. That's a recommendation. So I saw a September 14th date on there. They need to have this finalized by that date to get to the LL officials, so they have the official, game night protocols and how this is all going to look. But yeah, I mean, and again,
so kind of here's where I get frustrated, because the same day that I saw that coming from you was the same day that I saw a story from our education reporter, Alex Eli, about how Denver Elementary with 380 students is proceeding with lunch for their kids in the gym, where they're able to fit 100 kids at a time individually in the gym to eat lunch. So 100 kids there to eat their lunch during a school day, yet we can't have more than 25 kids in a gym for a volleyball match. That's the frustrating part.
There's so many, I mean, really, there's not a day that goes by that my inbox is not filled up with, why can't I go watch my kid play, Jeff? Why are they only letting 25 people in, Jeff? And but in the baseball league this summer, there were 300 people at this baseball game. Why are they only letting nobody in for a volleyball match? Or why can't I go watch my son play football in a big stadium where I can socially distance? I mean, every day. It's every single day with this, and people make good, valid points. But I don't know. Wolf's going to have a say, and hopefully him and Lombardi get together soon and figure this out.
A couple of years ago, I covered a high school rifle event because I just wanted to do a feature about it because I had never seen it. I thought it was so weird, and it is weird, not in a bad way, but it was very strange. But one of the things about it is, while a certain group of kids are in the actual rifle range doing the shooting, everybody else is sitting outside in another room, just sitting there like it's a waiting room. And that's kind of what this is going to be like, right? That's kind of what the volleyball thing is. So I guess it's not completely unprecedented. It certainly will be weird. And what you said, Ryan, is a really good point. A kid will be going into the game and may not know the game situation, right? Because they'll be standing out in the lobby.
I was at a volleyball workout the other night over at Elizabethtown, and just chatting with some kids, socially distancing, mask, all good. And they were, the one girl said, "Boy, isn't that going to be weird sitting out here in the hall?" Because we were out in the hallway, and she's like, "We could be sitting out here like during the match, not knowing what's going on, and then we got to go in and play." So I've been saying it, and I'll say it again. Everything's going to look different. Everything is going to look different. But you know what? Hang an asterisk next to it. Be happy the kids are going to get a shot to play.
I mean, that's weird, but weird is all it is, really. I mean, it's just a different thing that I don't have too much of an objection to that.
And I think I'm starting to learn. 2 days ago we talked to the McCaskey girls soccer coach and the Anvil Kalina cross country coach, and they both kind of reiterated the fact that these student athletes have been able to kind of handle this better than we adults do. Yeah. I don't know, okay, here's what we're doing. All right, that's kind of the new world that we're living in. How could we make the best of that situation?
Whatever they have to do to play. What's going on in cross country, John?
Yeah, cross country. All right, so wanted to clear this up because apparently I interpreted this incorrectly yesterday when talking to the LL cross country chair, Steve Kramer. All right, so junior high, first off, kids upon arrival are going to have to wear masks up to the starting line. Once they get to the starting line, they can remove masks, and then they're thinking about what happens at the finish line as far as when kids from one school cross, they go to their own pod or area and kind of congregate there and can put masks back on. And then the other thing is the limits on amount of runners. There's two options available here. The first option is schools can kind of stick with the original plan as far as having junior high and high school races on the same day. However, in that case, each team would only be allowed to enter a total of 48 runners total across those events, which means junior high boys, junior high girls, JV boys, varsity girls, JV boys. It has to be 48 total. So divide however many races that is, and that has to be 48 total. The second option, which is I think the more likely option that schools are going to take, is splitting up junior high on one day, high school on another day.
Huh.
In that case, if you have junior high races on one day, you would have a junior high varsity boys, a junior high JV boys, a junior high JV girls, a junior high varsity girls, in which case you would allow to have 12 runners total from each team in those 4 events. And then on another day, do the high school events, which means varsity boys, varsity girls, JV girls, 12 runners each team go in there, basically 48 total.
So that could be only 3 runners per school per race.
No. Maybe that's where I was
okay. I misunderstood you.
12
I
runners.
hope there's not a pop quiz later on this.
Right. It's 12 runners max, essentially 12 runners for each team max.
Yeah.
So if there's a meet of 4 teams, each team can have 12 runners. If that makes sense, right?
Per race or per
event? Per event. So like a varsity boys race, there's 4 teams. Each team has 12 runners.
Each team okay, all right.
Yeah.
I misunderstood
a JV
you.
boys race, there's 4 teams. There's 12 runners in that for each team in that JV event, and then the same thing for varsity. So that's where the confusing part is. They're trying to get to 12 runners per team per event.
Well, that's plenty, right?
Yeah.
That's plenty.
Yeah. And that's kind of where I'm coming from.
If you're the 13th best runner on your team, you're not okay. You're not competing on this. Yeah.
Right. And then the actual league meets are going to be held separate days, with boys on the 20th and the girls on the 21st, I believe, of October. And again, there's no parameters as far as you don't have to run in every single regular season meet in order to qualify for league. So you can sit out 1 or 2 to rest, since there's going to be 5 regular season league meets within 4 weeks on top of all the non-conference stuff that they compete in. And then I believe it's 7 runners per team, or 7 runners per school that will be able to enter into leagues themselves. If that makes sense, if I'm being clear on that. And then
7 boys and 7 girls.
Yeah, so like if Cedar Crest goes to leagues, they get to take 7 boys and 7 girls, etc. So, and then once you're at leagues, okay, so we have a varsity boys league championship race, for example. The top 10 runners from Class 3A schools and the top 10 runners to cross the finish line from Class 2A schools, they all go to districts. In addition, the runners on the top 2 teams at a league championship event, they also go to districts. And they're trying to keep it for the District 3 3A and District 3 2A, the boys race and the girls race. They're trying to keep it to 96 in each of those races. So, you know, however many leagues there is across District 3, and that's however many runners get to go in there.
At the top of your head, John?
Essentially, and I may have gotten it wrong. Wow. So look for the cross country story there, because I tried to explain that as best I could.
Well, it sounds like it's harder to explain than it is to really understand. Basically, they're just trying to limit the number of kids a little bit and separate out the races a little bit, and a few fewer are going to make leagues, a few fewer are going to make districts, a few fewer are going to make states. But that sounds reasonable to me. Yeah.
And I know, Jeff, we got a comment from somebody on Twitter saying, "Oh, we're going to only allow X amount of runners, but what about football? They have." Well, if you think about it, 12 runners per team in a race, 11 football players on a field at one time.
That's not the same thing. No,
I know, but
come on.
It is what it is.
I'm on Twitter.
Yeah, really.
So there's a lot of moving parts. We're trying to stay on top of it. I'm just glad, now the next thing to come here, Jeff, is Monday, August 31st. What's happening there?
3 important dates. This coming Monday, the 31st, Heat Act starts for football. The 3 of us will be somewhere Monday at a football practice. Yay. September 4th will be the start of all other fall sports practices. And I missed this one, but September 11th, tennis starts. I thought tennis started the 22nd, like everybody else, but tennis starts September 11th. They'll get cranked
I do remember seeing that now that you mentioned it. Yeah.
Yes. So tennis September 11th, fall practice September 4th, heat AC Monday, and pretty much everybody's back in school. So the heat AC will be in the afternoon, 3 o'clock, 3:30. Usually like the week before school, and it's like 8 in the morning, 7 in the morning, but they'll be practicing literally in the heat of the afternoon. Starting Monday. I will be at Manheim Central, Wilson, and Conestoga Valley next week. Dropping in.
All right. Anything else that we missed? Do we cover our bases here?
I'm going to leave you with one fun fact. There is a Division I college football game tomorrow.
What?
Austin P and Central Arkansas will be going at it tomorrow. It's coming. It's coming. I don't have the game time. I don't have the game.
Come on.
Sorry about that.
All right. All right. Sounds good, guys. Well, hey, good job this week. Keep your heads up. We made it through another week. And, hey, we'll be able to start kind of reporting on some fall sports stuff here in the next days and weeks. So, cool. Appreciate it, guys. Have a good weekend.
You too, John. Later, man.